Hello, this is Isabella Grace for Hunting the Silver Lining, and the subject today is why you need to be Machiavellian and why you can't just be nice, especially as a female, but really as anyone. Unfortunately, as much as I wish that we could, you can't. And just to give a little teeny tiny example that happened to me, well, it's hard to tell these stories without revealing too many details. So basically, I was staying somewhere and told I could stay longer, and if I wanted to, and then for some reason another opportunity came up for me, and I thought, oh, why would I take that? I'm already set on that particular scenario. And but something in my instinct was like, just go and check it out and find out, the second opportunity. And they were great and like, hey, yeah, we'd love to have you and da da da. So I go, I say, okay, but I don't commit and give money because I'm still like, what am I doing? I already have this other place. But I had this feeling like the other place, just like I was being really, really nice. And I felt like the nicer that I was, the more I was sort of being taken advantage of. And so I just want to say that you have to put yourself first. And I'm saying that for myself. This is just for myself. I'm talking to myself here. And you have to have backup plans, and you have to be willing to make decisions that are in your best interest, regardless of what other people are trying to pressure you to do or convince you. It's totally fine and no problem, because I was told, oh, you're overthinking it, everything is fine. And I wasn't overthinking it. My instincts were right. And so fortunately, I got I ended up going back and putting a deposit on the second place, and it's going to save me money and probably be a lot less stressful than staying somewhere that seems perfect but really isn't. And if I hadn't have been a little Machiavellian in terms of just sort of the general understanding of the term, in terms of kind of going behind everyone's back and just seeking out a second accommodation scenario without telling absolutely no one, and figuring out first if that was possible for me before anything else, I'm stressed, but I'd be a lot more stressed. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're like me and you're a people pleaser and you're also hypothetically pathologically optimistic, that you would consider that life and other humans aren't like you. It doesn't play out the way you would play it out if you were the other person. And sometimes you're just too optimistic. So we want things to go a certain way, they're just not going to go that way. So basically, this is about plan accordingly. Okay, plan accordingly. Have a plan and then have a backup plan. And all of these people that tell you that's not necessary are the ones that are going to be crying on the side of the road somewhere with no help because they never got the AAA. So get the AAA. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I did my hair today. I kind of miss my wigs, but like it's decent now because I haven't gone out into the humidity, and then it'll be a whole nother story in a little while. But yeah, take care of yourself, invest in yourself. And so like your hair, your makeup, girly stuff like that, perfume, little earrings, nails, but also having backup plans. And don't trust things as significant as your living arrangements or travel arrangements or anything where you're going to be in a more vulnerable position as any for any person, but especially as a female. Make sure you have your plans and your backup plans, and keep your guard up a little bit. I let my guard down a little too much with some people that at first were just so gentle and so kind and so trustworthy. And then I kind of really turned myself inside out like a little puppy dog, fawning over them because I was just like, oh, these are the most amazing people ever. And I still think that, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, possibly they are. But ultimately, if you don't put yourself first and you're too nice, there's something really strange about being too nice. It turns people into jerks. I don't get it, because when someone's too nice to me, or like super nice to me like these people were in the beginning, I get I just get overjoyed. Oh, how wonderful. Finally, lovely, amazing people that you don't have to have your guard up, but it's for whatever reason, it just doesn't last. People get very, very strange. And it's something about being too nice. They just decide they've got to start encroaching on your boundaries, or walking all over you, or sort of backtracking and reneging on things that you thought had already been, negotiated verbally and understood, possibly even in writing. you know or when someone says, oh, you don't have to pay for that, and or you pay for something, and then they say you don't have to pay for it, and they're kind of going back and forth with the check or something, and it can get kind of strange if you're not willing to put yourself first and try and think clearly about what your best interests are, while you care about being a good person and doing the right thing. And another thing that I noticed about, if you're like me and you're trying to recover from being a people pleaser, you're going to have a lot of tension and anxiety and nerves. And when someone's nice, it's like such a tremendous relief. Like, oh, great, I don't have to fight for every little thing with this person. But, unfortunately, if you're genuinely a nice person, you're probably like, I want to say 1 in a million. That's cliche. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's 1 in 100,000. Probably not even that good odds. But like, if you really are genuinely a nice, like, you like being good to people, just anyone, you like it because it makes life feel more pleasant. Unfortunately, that's highly unlikely to be reciprocated with the same depth and sincerity that I'm genuinely doing it, and that you might, if you're that kind of a person. So don't be too nice. I hate that I'm saying that, and it doesn't sound like some deep, clever thing, but I'm saying it because I'm going to be 50 this year, and I still keep on coming up against this lesson where I've been too nice, and people start out reciprocating, and then I don't know what happens to them, but they just can't. Like, I guess the mask slips, some would say, and then I've heard, devil's advocates kind of, victim blaming comes to mind, but that's not exactly what it is. But they say, oh, well, if you're too nice, they don't think you're authentic, they don't respect you and all that. But it's like, if you're nice and respectful, and you're paying your agreed amount payment for things when dealing with people, and then they start to encroach on your kindness and on your your territory, or your time or your effort or your energy. And that's another thing, the whole sort of energetic vampirism thing, which I don't like that term, but for lack of a better term, just so that we get that out there, because that's a concept. These are concepts that are come up for me repeatedly, and I want to discuss them and see if other people have something to say about it that's useful to those of us who struggle with wanting to be loving and generous and kind, and you just keep on getting disrespected. You keep on getting taken advantage of. You keep on finding yourself in situations where you're like, wait a second, this person is totally using me. And you might have actually gone into the situation thinking that you were almost getting the better end of the deal. And then you find out the deal isn't exactly as was presented to you. And so back to the beginning where I said about you've got to be a bit Machiavellian. And I think one of the principal things about Niccolo Machiavelli's work, The Prince, the famous one that people often reference, is that we have to accept humans for how they really are, and not this ideal that we wish they were. And one of his most famous lines is, it's advice for rulers in Florence, I think it was, maybe 1500 years ago ish. I don't know, forget the date. So correct me, whoever knows. And he said, the famous line, it's if when there is a decision whether to be loved or feared, it's better to be feared than loved. And the reason is because people have no problem betraying someone who they love, who they feel is harmless to them, who would never hurt them, someone who is so kind. And I keep on experiencing this in life. And then occasionally I'll be a real, and I'll be really angry and nasty, and everybody will be like, oh my God, her, she's so, I'm like, yeah, because being nice does not work. And then they make you feel guilty if you express, if you give blowback and express a temper about, injustices that you feel are being imposed upon you. But you got to do it. So like, don't let them guilt trip you when you're not being nice. And obviously there are fine lines here, and there are balances, and then there are rebalances. Maybe you fall out with someone and you want to get back in their good graces, if they're willing. But once people show you who they are, believe them. Remember that one too. God is such an important line, and it's sad because it's just recently happened to me with some people that I really thought the world of, and for whatever reason, things just got weird, and the nicer I was, the weirder that I started to feel, and something that I paid for wasn't really being delivered or maintained the way that I was paying for it. And it wasn't until other people started saying, hey, they're supposed to take care of that, or they're supposed to pay for that, or why are they always doing that when they weren't supposed to be doing that. And I kept on making excuses, and then I had to realize, like, here, this is the people pleaser thing, and this is the pathological optimism that I've diagnosed myself with. You just don't want it to be not great. You want to be wrong about your suspicions and your instincts that these aren't trustworthy scenarios here. These people genuinely don't care about me. They're basically just feeding off of me, and they're gonna feed off of me, one of them in particular, as much as I allow. So that's a really important thing for you to think on. Just don't allow it. It's uncomfortable, it's unfortunate, and sometimes you have to cut and run and move on, and I'm going to be doing that, hopefully as cleanly and neatly as possible. Pray with me, pray for me, and I pray for you, and I wish you every good thing if you can really, really relate to this, and hopefully we can support each other, because for whatever reason, even at my big age, as they say, I keep having to remind myself of some of these really basic fundamental lessons. I almost thought when I had this talk, I'm not super energized, so forgive me, but I thought, oh, this is too basic, and I've touched on it before already. But the thing is, I need these reminders. So I'm reminding you. Sometimes you have to be Machiavellian, and you have to plan your escape and have your backup plans. And may that work out for you, and may you have those, and even better, may you not need them, but have them anyway, okay? I hope this finds you well. Take very good care. Much love and blessings, okay? Bye-bye.